Hello everybody, daring today are we? Today, what we have here is an orchid that isn't in very good shape. The leaves are limp, wrinkled, and showing clear signs of stress, and the overall appearance tells us it's struggling. This condition is a classic sign of severe root rot, which is the most likely diagnosis. The roots simply can't function anymore, and without healthy roots, the plant can't hydrate itself or take in nutrients properly. Looking at the current potting situation, it's probably a combination of compacted sphagnum moss and a pot with poor air circulation. The moss may have held too much water for too long, essentially suffocating the roots. Although the leaves appear dehydrated and droopy, it's important to understand this isn't from lack of watering. The problem comes from the rotted root system, which is no longer capable of feeding the plant. Without functioning roots, no amount of surface watering can really help. The plant needs a fresh start, and that's exactly what we'll do today. Let's start by removing the plant from its old pot. We can see here that things aren't looking too good. The leaves are limp and the roots are struggling. So removing the old substrate is our first priority. Gently, we'll press the sides of the pot if it's plastic, or wiggle the plant free if it's ceramic. The goal is to avoid tugging on the roots or leaves too hard, because they're already fragile. Once the orchid is out, we can begin carefully peeling away the moss or old medium that's been holding the roots in place. Some of it may be stuck, but patience is key. We want to see the full root system, so we can assess which roots are still healthy and which need to be removed. Now, we'll take a clean pair of shears or scissors and carefully trim away any parts of the roots or stem that are no longer able to provide nutrients for the plant. Unfortunately, in this case, almost everything is gone. The majority of the roots and the stem are rotted and unusable. All that remains is just a small portion of the stem and a few healthy roots, but that's okay. It may look fragile right now, but orchids are remarkably resilient. Even when very little is left, the plant can regrow if given the right care. The key is patience and attention. By nurturing these remaining parts, providing the right medium, and keeping them hydrated without overwatering, the orchid can slowly rebuild its root system, strengthen its leaves, and eventually return to full health. It's a reminder that recovery is possible, even when things seem dire. With steady care, what seems like a tiny, vulnerable remnant can grow into a strong, flourishing plant once again. So don't be discouraged. We're just getting started on giving this orchid a new lease on life. Once that's done, we're going to give the orchid a nice wash using a gentle water spray. This helps remove any leftover debris, old moss, or rotted material that might still be clinging to the roots. Use a soft, gentle stream of water so you don't damage the delicate remaining roots. The goal is to rinse everything clean without putting too much pressure on the plant. As you spray, take a moment to inspect the roots and stem again. This is your chance to make sure all the unhealthy parts have been removed and that the remaining roots look firm and healthy. A thorough, careful wash not only cleans the plant, but it also refreshes the roots and prepares it for the next step, drying and eventually repotting into fresh medium. Think of it like giving the orchid a gentle shower after a long period of stress. It's a small but important step in helping it recover fully. Now, we're going to prepare a gentle fertilizer for the plant. Start with an aloe vera leaf. Cut it into small pieces so that the nutrients can more easily infuse into the water. Once that's done, place the pieces into a clean container. Then, fill the container with fresh, clean water, making sure the leaf pieces are fully submerged. Give the mixture a good stir to help release the natural vitamins and minerals from the aloe vera, distributing them evenly throughout the liquid. Finally, close the lid and set the container aside. After 10 minutes, we're going to filter out all of the compounds that haven't broken down using a fine strainer. This ensures that our solution is smooth and easy for the orchid to absorb without clogging the roots or leaves. Once that's done, we'll add in a special ingredient, conditioner essential oil. This is a very strong liquid, so only 1 teaspoon is enough. It helps enhance nutrient absorption and adds a protective layer to the plant. After adding the essential oil, give the mixture a good stir. Make sure everything is evenly coated so that the solution is uniform and every drop carries the benefits we want for the orchid. Once stirred, the fertilizer is ready to use for both the leaves and roots, giving the plant a gentle but effective boost. Now that we've got the solution ready, pour into a clean container that's large enough for the orchid to fit comfortably inside. Make sure there's enough liquid to cover all of the roots, since this step is about giving the plant a full soak of nutrients. Then, we'll let it sit and soak for about 30 minutes. During this time, the aloe vera and essential oil blend will slowly work its way into the roots, hydrating them and providing a natural boost of vitamins, minerals, and protection. After 30 minutes, the orchid should be ready. Carefully lift it out of the container and give it a quick inspection before we move on to the next step. Check the roots closely. Healthy roots will look firm and plump, with a slight green or silvery tone when wet. Now we will proceed to add a layer of cinnamon powder onto the trimmed parts of the plant. Cinnamon is a natural antifungal and antibacterial agent. It helps protect the fresh cuts from infection and speeds up the healing process. Gently sprinkle or dab a small amount of cinnamon powder onto the areas where you've trimmed the roots or stem. Make sure to cover only the wounded spots. Too much powder on healthy roots can dry them out unnecessarily. This step acts like a natural bandage for the orchid, keeping it safe and clean as it prepares to recover in its new pot. Now it's time to prepare a temporary place for our orchid to grow. Start by getting a clean container that's big enough to comfortably fit the plant inside. For this setup, we're going to use the top of a plastic bottle as a base for the orchid to stand on. Place the bottle top into the container first. This will act like a small platform, keeping the orchid slightly elevated and preventing the roots from sitting directly at the bottom where excess moisture can collect. Next, gently position the orchid on top of the base. Make sure it's standing upright and stable before we add any water. Finally, pour a small amount of water into the container. Not too much to soak the entire plant, but just enough to keep the environment lightly moist. This creates a humid microclimate that encourages root recovery without drowning the orchid. Finally, cover the container with a lid, where you can use any pot with drainage holes placed upside down on top. This creates a mini greenhouse effect, protecting the orchid while it begins to heal and encouraging new root growth. After 2 weeks, you'll start to notice some huge changes in the orchid. Here, we can already see it beginning to form new roots. These fresh roots are usually light green at the tips, a clear sign that the plant is responding well to the recovery process. This early root growth is very important. It tells us that the orchid is slowly regaining strength, pulling in moisture, and preparing itself for long-term stability. Even though the changes might look small at first, remember, this is the foundation of the orchid's comeback. With every new root, the plant is building the strength it needs to eventually produce new leaves and later flowers. Now, let's prepare a new home for our orchid. Start with a pot that has clear drainage holes. Orchids need excellent airflow and water movement around their roots. Begin by adding a first layer of pine bark to the bottom of the pot. This creates space for air circulation and prevents water from sitting at the base. Next, carefully position the orchid in the center. Make sure it's standing upright and stable before continuing. Take your time here. A steady position will help the plant grow strong and straight. Once it's in place, slowly fill in the remaining space with more pine bark. Gently tap the pot to let the bark settle evenly around the roots, but don't pack it too tightly. Remember, orchids love breathing room. Finally, cover the top layer with a light cushion of moss. This will help hold surface moisture and protect the roots, while still keeping the pot airy and breathable. Now, from this point on, routine care is very important. The plant has been through a lot, and while we've given a fresh start, consistency is what will help it recover fully. First, always check the moisture level. The container should stay slightly humid, but never soaking wet. If you see condensation on the sides, that means the plant already has enough moisture inside. Adding more water could cause rot. Second, give the orchid bright but indirect light. Too much direct sunlight will stress it, but shaded spot with good light will encourage strong new root and leaf growth. Third, make it a habit to inspect the orchid every few days. Look for any signs of mold, pests, or decay, and make small adjustments right away if needed. A little attention now can prevent bigger problems later. And there you have it, a complete step-by-step process to help revive and care for your orchid. Remember, patience and consistency are the key. Orchids may be slow to respond, but with the right care, they will reward you with new growth and, eventually, beautiful blooms. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe for more orchid care tips. And, as always, thank you for joining me today. Until next time, happy growing.